A few days ago, experts from the Center for Strategic and International Studies made a detailed analysis of the fighting in Ukraine and tried to predict the further actions of the Russian army on the battlefield. In particular, Senior Vice President of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Seth Jones, said that in 2024, the Russian army will launch its counteroffensive not in the Zaporizhia and Kherson directions of the front, as many believe, but in the northwestern part of the Donetsk People's Republic, in the east of the Kharkiv region, and the western part of the Luhansk People's Republic. According to him, for the Russian High Military Command, the main goal now is to liberate the remaining territories of Donbass and the Kharkiv region, which will completely deprive the armed forces of Ukraine of the opportunity to shell border villages and towns of the Russian Federation. Moreover, Seth Jones also touched on the topic of the failed summer counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine. He noted that the Ukrainian army was unable to break through the Russian defense not because of extensive minefields and lines of barrage, but because of the professional and coordinated actions of Russian combat planes, attack helicopters, and drones. Meanwhile, former Pentagon's Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and current military expert at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Mike Vickers, said that the current war in Ukraine has shown the full power and effectiveness of Russian attack helicopters. According to him, the Russians are using their attack helicopters very effectively, destroying a large number of Western heavy military equipment. It was thanks to their attack helicopters, the Russians managed to destroy a large number of Western tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. The high combat performance of Russian attack helicopters and the ability to use them competently and professionally allowed the Russian army to achieve significant success on the battlefield. Mike Vickers noted that over the past 2 years, the Russian army has managed not only to stop the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, but also to capture many strategically important villages and cities, including Avdiivka. All these victories of the Russian army on the battlefield point to the superiority of the Russian military doctrine. We must admit the obvious: the Russian military doctrine provides for the unification of field armies with combat aviation, which makes the Russian army the most superior force in the world, former Pentagon's Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence Mike Vickers said. American political scientist and former counselor of the United States Department of State, Elliot Cohen, fully agreed with Mike Vickers' words. According to him, the Russian military doctrine is much superior to NATO doctrine, since the West is still living in the past and creating its own military tactics based on the experience of fighting during the Vietnam and Korean Wars. NATO is still not adapted to the realities of modern conflicts, while the Russian army has learned to innovate in time, be flexible, develop, and get better right during the fighting. Western generals, unlike Russian ones, still divide two types of combat operations: positional and maneuverable. That is, the West still considers the tactics of the war of attrition as a separate type of warfare, while the realities of the conflicts of the 21st century suggest the opposite. In the end, the expert added that the West should learn to think on the right scale, as the Russians do, and immediately change the NATO military doctrine. And only then, the West will finally be able to effectively counter threats to its security and strategic interests. Well, seeing such statements by reputable Western experts, it becomes clear that the West has finally begun to realize the full potential, strength, and power of the Russian Federation. I bet Western leaders now regret that they refused to provide Russia with security guarantees on the Ukrainian issue, thereby allowing the bloodiest war of the 21st century to begin, which changed not only the borders of Eastern Europe, but also put an end to the unipolar world that ruled the planet for the past 80 years. Meanwhile, on February 27, the Russian military released footage of the destruction of the ground-based air defense system NASAMS, which was located in the village of Malashevka, Zaporizhia region, 70 kilometers from the line of combat contact. According to experts, the destruction of the NASAMS air defense system is a very painful loss for the armed forces of Ukraine, since this air defense system is considered much more effective and modern than the US Patriot system. Against the background of constant massive Russian missile strikes, Ukrainian air defense has almost completely lost its effectiveness. And today's destruction of the NASAMS air defense system will further worsen the situation of the Ukrainian army on the battlefield. Let me remind you that in the last 60 days alone, Russian missiles have managed to destroy dozens of enemy air defense systems of various types. In particular, we are talking about such air defense systems as IRIS-T, Patriot, NASAMS, S-300, and SAM-T.